What is up, entrepreneurs? Welcome to the Friday Live Helpcast with your hostess, the mostess, Diana Galadney. I'm super pumped and excited to be here with you. Happy Friday, everybody. As you all know, you've seen I've not been present on the channel. I've been taking a little bit of a break, much needed after traveling. And even when I got back, I still didn't get a break. I had to do a keynote, which was still a lot of fun. Something that I've been wanting to do for a while, which is provide some value to the faith-based space, especially when it comes to getting started with video, knowing how to do all the ins and the outs and the hooplas and whatnot, because quiet is kept, because it ain't quiet and it ain't being kept, they're behind. So the church space has been behind for a very long time. So I love to use my gifts, talents, skills, and abilities to that aim, to that purpose. So hopefully you guys are enjoying things. There'll be a video that posts right after this live stream, and it's going to be very interesting, and it'll touch on and kind of bridge the gap a little bit between what we'll be talking about today, any of your questions that you all have. So be sure to put those in the chat. And that is going to be how to do better live interviews, or just even interviews for your podcast or whatever it is that you're doing, your show. I've watched where, especially those of you that have come in, you've been clients. For those of you that are just getting started and you're like, I want to ask better questions and you kind of don't know what to say, we'll be diving into that in the video that comes and will release today after today's live stream. So let's go ahead and say hello to the folks over in the chat. We have Mr. Camera Junkie. Good to see you. Glad that you're here. Let's bring this down a smidge. All righty. This feels a little... Okay, dropping remotes. Is that on all the way? Okay. I'm like, did I zoom in? No, I think I brought the tripod closer. Either way, we're here for it. What is going on, Miss Finance? Good to see you. Glad that you are here. Jerry, good to see you. Glad that you are here. Kombucha in the house. We have Alan Jones. Good to see you. Glad that you're making it to the stream. Prairie Life in the house. Good to see you. Glad you're here. So I've been doing the Ecam Academy this week with Adrian. So it's Adrian Salisbury and the team. So thank you very much for doing this update for the live stream. My pleasure. What is going on at Fixed Point? Good to see you. Glad that you're here. And don't know how to pronounce that. I believe that's Czech, I think. So let me know how to pronounce your name and I will say it as best as I can to get it right. But first question on the board saying, what lens do you recommend for the ZV-E10 shooting webinars with one speaker at the table? Good question. We'll come to that in just a second. So a couple of things and then we'll dive into your question that you have there. So real quick, as you all know, we had a new camera come out. We had some new Ecamm live updates come out, and all said things and above are awesome. So this is where, even with the question that we've been asked already, which I'm going to get to very, very quickly, like we'll do like 60 seconds, let's say a minute or two, right? Let's round that up a little bit. So here's the thing. New camera came out. Am I going to be talking about it as much as the ZV-E10? Maybe, but maybe not right now also. But what camera would that be? That is the new Sony A7 IV that recently dropped. I'm not going to take any of Farouk's video like I did for the ZV-E10. I think we still owe him some super chats or something like that. But so over here on B&H website, they have the new A7 IV body that came out with the pretty price tag of 2,498 American dollars, which... Is it priced properly? I think yes, because when the A7 III came out in 2018, I believe, it was a literal like showstopper. It disrupted the industry completely. And why does that matter? Especially for those of you like, we just bought the ZV-E10. Calm down and hold your horses. Okay, we're getting there. And here's the thing. It's not for you to buy every new thing, but I really need you all to understand one of the biggest things that I've noticed with a lot of y'all is you're not properly making purchases based on a system of what you're doing, right? And so you say, like, this is what I'm planning to do. I want to make this kind of content, but you're not looking at the system of gear and things that will make that possible. So the A7 III, for example, when that came out, it did a bunch of fantastic things. It literally was the best of the best with honors, and honestly very, very cheap for what it does. So when we take a look at the A7 Mark IV body, this is a 33 megapixel sensor camera, so more than the A7S III, and it comes in with 4K 60 frames per second. We'll come back to that one a little bit there, but Also has the 422 10-bit. So I don't know how to describe this to you. I would have to show it to you. But when it comes to having light or bright images or something like that, and you would see what kind of looks like a gradation, if you will, in the way that it looks, that's because it's stretching some of the colors that aren't existing in the frame. So it's like the difference between having like 10 crayons versus like the 64 mega pack crayons from back in the day with the crayon sharpener kind of a deal. So having that 422 10-bit natively in the camera, 10 frames per second shooting, which we've seen that around for a while, and also gets up to the 1080p 120 frames per second, which thankfully is not anything new out here in these camera streets for Sony at least. But that also brings with it, let me scroll down to the video specs. Like, we have a lot of good things happening in here that we've not seen in any other cameras. I'm not going to dive into this a tremendous amount, but I do want to put this all on your radar for what this camera makes possible, and also has that new S-Cinetone cinematic profile, if you will, without having to do any color grading. So something I really like about this camera, and I want y'all to pay attention to some of the good things with like the ZV-E10. And so if you're looking later on, let's say even a year from now, 2 years from now, this may be the camera to look at when you're looking at adding on to your existing staff of even videographers. So you may not be doing the video any longer, but you may hand that off. This is the kind of equipment that they're going to be wanting to use, and it makes sense for your business to own that. So if we take a look over here, something that we've seen, again, this is why I'm saying like the ZV-E10 was so magnanimous, because the microphone and headphone port came at the 2K plus price range, and you're getting that now for $600 because this camera absolutely has it. USB-C, not necessarily something we were seeing on some of the $1,000 or less cameras. The ZV-E10 has that, as well as this one. This one also has the USB micro port, and that is, I'm not gonna get into it in this video. How about that? Because I could go all day. Full HDMI port. I'll come back to that in just a second for those of you that care about that. But the ZV-E10 has the micro port there. But something that I found interesting on the top of this camera, right here, you'll see it is, see if I can zoom in there. So you should be able to see that. You'll see that photo, video, and that S&Q setting. You have that already in a button in the ZV-E10. And so now everybody's seeing, now it's not a digital, well, it's still a physical button, but that's like a physical dial. You have that in a physical button on your ZV-E10 already. So the difference between your camera and the capabilities, again, that's one of the things that I love about Sony. You'll see that even sometimes on that lower tier camera, so that when you want to make an upgrade, it's not such a drastic difference. This does use the new Sony menu systems, and it is touchscreen, which is awesome. But is it like Canon where you can like click on the aperture or click on the ISO on the screen and change it? No, but you can go and, you know, click on it and do all the things in the menu. I've I wasn't too sure on this camera yesterday when it initially was announced. Watched some videos. I'm still not through all of them because, you know, everybody drops 38,000 videos and it's like, whoa. So taking a bit to catch up on that. My initial thoughts on it. If you're looking to go full frame, we now have a range of cameras from the Sony A7C, which is kind of like a full frame version of the A6600. You now have the nothing. There's no ZV nothing at the full frame level. And now you have like the A7 III, which is now kind of being replaced here with this A7 Mark IV or Alpha 7 Mark IV. That looks to be a fantastic upgrade, and a lot of other stuff that's in this camera that I think when it comes to content creation, it makes sense. This is why I'm saying if you're looking at the mount, this little silver thing here, when you look at the mount, that one mount, the lenses that you already have right now, if this is something that you want to upgrade to later, or you find that, you know what, I do want to go into full frame or whatever, you do not need to switch lenses. So those of you that are in the Sony camp, you don't need to switch over. Your lenses, you will need to get full frame lenses to get the most out of the sensor, but you can adapt your APS-C lenses onto the camera. It has that crop mode. So where that 4K 60 kind of conversation comes into play here, where 4K 60 is available, but it's in a crop mode. So basically what that looks like, imagine this frame right here being full frame. So this is as much as you could get. APS-C takes you down to, oh, I'm in 4K, so it's not going to be accurate. I had to change. I don't feel like doing that. Yeah, it's just imagine though, like let's say we crop in a little bit here, something about like this. So you're punching in some, right? So that's that 4K 60 mode. I forgot we're doing 4K on this camera. So clear image zoom doesn't go all the way up to 2.0. It only goes to 1.5. Neither here nor there. End of the story. My thoughts on the camera, I think is dope. Am I looking into getting one? Maybe. I'm very highly considering it. I'm looking at this or like the FX3 or something like that or whatever. FX3, FX6, whatever it was that came out. I'm trying to remember at the moment. But I think it's FX3. But here's the point. ZV-10, still a viable camera. I took this camera out to travel when I went to New York, spent a week in New York, and it was absolutely fantastic. I only took the 10 to 18, so decided to condense things down a little bit, and I only took the 10 to 18. I could have took the ZV-1 because I was thinking like, the range, or take another lens. I'm like, okay, I could take my 16, but I'm like, I want to go lean and mean. One lens, one camera. I did not mind carrying this camera the entire time that I was out of town. I did not mind recording anything of what I wanted to use. The clear image zoom that we talked about in a previous video that came on the channel, it worked amazing. And I did not take the Sigma 16, I only took the 10 to 18. So I think as a travel camera, this is a good go-to. Something like this A7 Mark IV camera, only thing I'm thinking about like is how heavy this is going to be for me personally. If you lift weights out here in those streets, may the Lord bless you and keep you always. But as for me in my house, we're going to have to think about it because heavy bothers me. Like the heavy weight of a camera, the lens and all the stuff like they get, because it gets annoying. And your camera gear is only as good as you wanting to carry it. So if you don't want to carry all that stuff, now you have to reframe some things. So a dope little camera. I think you all need to take a consideration and look at if that's something that, if you're working for somebody and your boss is looking for a camera, they're looking for full frame, next level stuff. A lot of some of the things that we saw come out a little bit in the ZV-E10, upgraded times 10. This is that camera. So I think that is super duper dope. Let's see here. Sergey. Okay. Thank you. So I remember that. Sergey, good to see you. Glad that you're here. Tyler B talking, saying I got the ZV-E10. My first videos are up. That was a great camera recommendation. Well, I'm glad that worked for you well. Say, yep, your first camera too. Awesome. Angela W Consulting, good to see you. Glad that you're here. Let's see. Were we able to talk? Say, okay. So question comes in. So are we able to ask random questions today? If allowed, I have a question about shorts video. Sure. So ask your questions. I'm just covering some of the topics I said that I would in the title of this video. At the beginning, so all that stuff is at the front. If you're watching for the replay, thanks for being here. But if you're live, feel free to load up the chat with your questions because I'm gonna be rolling through those, and as soon as I get to the last question, it's a wrap. So if your question ain't there in the next 2.3 milliseconds, it's a wrap. All right. So next order of business, Ecamm Live had an update, and they're now seeing what I see behind the scenes with Ecamm. We've been testing a lot of stuff when it comes to the beta, and oh boy, is it good. We have a lot of stuff. There are a lot of videos on the Ecamm Network channel, so feel free to check that out. Some of the things that are new that came out is, first and foremost, your ZV-E10 now can live stream via USB-C to the camera. So if you're looking at that 720p whatever mess with the Sony internally, that's fine if you're traveling, and if you have nothing, or if you're not a Mac user, that's fine. You have Ecamm though, you can do 4K, and we've done that on the channel already. So this camera, Bees Knees Hall of Fame, it works fantastically. We also get chat and some other stuff that I probably would have to show you in a dedicated video afterwards, so I can show you the stuff when you're not live or whatever. But a lot of new things came to the Ecamm suite when it comes to guest chat, which is something that people have been asking for a lot. So when you take a look here, you see that I have this chat over here. If I had a guest that I brought into the show, you could have another chat bubble that you would see in your interview link and stuff like that, so that you can have something say, hey, I need to run to the restroom. Can you stall for 3 minutes? Instead of doing like I would do, where Doc and India would be on, and I just put them up front, and then I go leave, and they're wondering what happened because I just disappeared because I had to use the restroom. And that's how I roll. So now you have the guest chat. This is really, really awesome. I love that we have this. Other thing that is really important, I won't spend too much time belaboring the point here, white label branding, which means you would usually see that Ecamm logo when you're joining someone's guest link. Now you don't. You see your branding or whatever it is that you want. Also think about the profiles that also came out. That basically is to say, so we have our Let's Get Live channel where we do This Week in Live show where we talk about the latest in live streaming news and things like that. So on that channel, we have a different brand color, we have different brand fonts, and a total amount of other stuff. If we were to bring guests in on that show, they don't need to see Video Simplified with Diana Gladney and blah, blah, blah. They don't need to see all that stuff. That's for my brand. That's my company. They don't need to see for Doc Rock. They don't need to see his branding, stuff like that. They don't need to see David and the stuff with his WordPress. And like, we all got 3 different companies, and then we have a company together. So that means that because all of us have Ecamm, we can have profiles to say, when we're doing a stream for this, I could literally stop, completely switch the branding on everything else over, now go over to our Let's Get Live branding and we're good, or vice versa. And so that profiles really help if you're doing stuff for, let's say, your church, and then you also use your same stuff for your stuff at home and whatever you talk about. That's something that's super helpful to you. So I think it's some things to consider with that. Profiles is, as the hashtag is going right now for Ecamm, game changer, because it honestly is. So a lot of fantastic things. So I want to dive into your questions. Again, I'll have to do a dedicated video on all of the updates because it literally was a whole like rap sheet of stuff, of things that we've been asking for that they've implemented. We've had this for a while in beta. So I've been actively testing this stuff, and I can tell y'all it is good. It is good, and kudos and thank you to the team over at Ecamm. They are awesome, and I can't think of a better program or a tool to have and use in my business other than Ecamm. I literally record my keynotes, do these videos, live streams, all the rest, all in Ecamm. So Bees Knees Hall of Fame. If you don't have a Mac, get one. All right. All right, so let's go through. I'm marking the questions right now. So if you have them, make sure you got them. Saying it is a game changer, and indeed it is. What is going on, Devin Chambers? Good to see you. Glad that you are here. Alrighty. Let's see here. I'm just going through marking questions right now. Alrighty. So, and then also for those of you that aren't sure what I'm doing, if you're new to Ecamm. So when I'm saying I'm marking the questions, what I'm doing is I'm scrolling through and looking to see who's asking questions. And if I see that somebody is asking a question, just like Sergey had one, I put a star next to it, and I can come over here to the favorites, and now I have all of my questions queued up. Or if I say put Q with a colon, so like Q with colon, and then I hit enter, then I can now see who all is using that specific thing that I said, or put QQQ for question, and then I'll know, then I could search QQQ, and it will come up if there were any, but I didn't say do anything like that. So I'm just looking for the questions. So that's something that you have access to, and the favorites and stuff like that with Ecamm, super dope. All right, let's dive in. So ZVE10, wait, your first question was, what lens do I recommend for shooting webinars with one person at a table? The thing to consider with this is that you want to think about how close are you to the camera. You do have clear image zoom, which is what you saw me messing about with earlier, where you can zoom in and crop in on the image, or not necessarily the image, but on the sensor, which by default crops in on that image. If you're shooting 1080p, you can crop in up to 2 times. If you're shooting in 4K, which this stream is being outputted in, then you can go up to 1.5 times crop. So this 35 millimeter lens that I have now in 4K can go up to 1.5 times itself, and then 2x for 1080p. How close are you going to be? And if it's just one person, that's fine, but what all do you want in the frame? This is where having a kit lens is very, very good for you, because you can go from 16 to 55 or whatever. You can find your right focal length. So it's not based on, like, I don't automatically just say, oh, get the 35 or get the Sigma 30 or the Sigma 16, and that's going to be the lens, because that may not be right. Even though you can do clear image zoom, what's going to be right for you, you need to sit down in that space. If you have access to it, I would imagine that you do. If you have the kit lens, which I would imagine that you also do, sit down with your kit lens and put the tripod where you're going to put it, and then zoom in and then you'll find that focal length. Now you'll say, well, how do I know what number it is? Because only certain ones are marked. What you do is that you'll look at the bar at the top of your camera. It will tell you what millimeter focal length that you're at on your kit lens. So if you see 17 is about the right focal length, then yes, the Sigma 16 will work well for you. That's just a slight increase in moving the tripod forwards or backwards. If you're working in a very tight space, you're kind of sitting up against the wall, you don't have a whole bunch of space, let's say a real small den-like area, and you're not working with a ton of space, what you want to do, again, sit your tripod where you can and adjust that focal range to where you want to get it to. The best lens at that point, it's going to be based on the focal length. So that could be some of the Tamron or Sony lenses that came out. That's like a 20 millimeter if it's somewhere within that range. Or 30 or 35 millimeter lens could be by Sigma or Sony or somewhere thereabouts. So you need to find your right focal length and how much space you're actually working with. Because the Sigma 16, even though it's one person and it's stretched across the room, ain't gonna look right because you're gonna be itty bitty. So now you got yourself that's like a micro person and all of this extra room. So we're seeing a bunch of room and barely a person. Sigma 16 is good if you're close to it or you do need that wider length, then cool. You have some of the Tamron and Sony lenses. They're about 20 millimeter lenses. Let me look this up while I'm saying this because I can show you some of the options that may be depending on kind of like what you're working with. I would imagine something like a small office space or, you know, kind of at a table kind of a deal. So let's see, the Tamron 20 millimeter. Those are f2.8 lenses. Let's bring this over channel. Okay, so over here, you'll see that this Tamron 20 millimeter f2.8 lens is a $249 lens. It's not bad when it comes to the what you're looking to do. And so if you're not needing as much or the 16 is too wide, something like this would be good for you. I prefer prime lenses over zoom lenses because what most people generally want is to get that blurry background while they're kind of doing their thing. But you can't get that on a lens. Really, 2.8 is kind of pushing it, but you can't get a blurry background on something if you don't have the right lens. And the kit lens is kind of one of those lenses. F2.8 is pushing it. You really want to be at that F2.0 or less. You also have, if you're needing to get to that 30 millimeter range, you also have the Sigma 30, hold on, 30 millimeter, here we go. The Sigma 30 millimeter is going to run just a little bit cheaper than that Sigma 16. You see that coming in at $269 US. That's an f1.4 lens. So to give you some kind of a estimation of a look, this is about 4 feet away. I'm using a Sony 35 millimeter f1.8 lens. So I do need a bit of a distance. It's not arm's length. It's not even close. So about 3 to 4 feet between myself and my tripod where my camera is. And then there's about another 3 to maybe 4 feet behind me. So that gives me depth. So I have space. But if you're up against the wall, you're not getting no blurry background because ain't no background. So you'll get yourself nice and sharp, but ain't no blurry background because it just ain't there. So at that point, if you're super close, like it's on your face kind of a thing, it's the table and then the tripod, then at that point, something like that Sigma 16 will work well for you. And just to show you that lens here, let's go here, 16 millimeters. Where's my coffee? All right, so this is the lens everyone's pride and joy on the YouTube sphere, and it is that deal. I have a video that shows and breaks down like how much space you would need if you're using a Sigma 16. Hopefully if there's any moderators in the chat, they can grab that video. But this is that going to help with that tremendously. If you're using Sony mirrorless cameras, A7 III, ZV-E10, A6400, 6600, all of them use the same mount, one mount. So if it says for Sony E mount, it will fit your camera. If you're in the Canon camp or something, that's a different story. If you're in the Fuji camp, I think that's a different story. Micro Four Thirds, all you need to see is that M43, you're good. So this is kind of one of those things where Micro Four Thirds and Sony E mount kind of a stuff is really helpful because you have more options. You don't have to kind of play around, will it fit my camera or not? So this is where that lens is kind of that big of a deal. I do have people asking questions also about the Sigma 16 that I've seen in comments that I haven't gotten to just yet. That kind of piggybacks on this a little bit. If you are trying to see what lens that's like this is that Sigma 16. She is a girthy girl. All right. She's heavy. She's not light by any means. So yes, it's a great lens. I get it. It's a lot of glass elements that makes this heavy. Sigma is known for being heavy. All right. But if you're saying like, I need that, but cheaper, or I need that, but not so big, sometimes the answer is it doesn't exist. If you buy too cheaply, you buy the consequences and the limitations that come with being cheap. There is no other way around sometimes some of this stuff. It's like you got to accept the weight of what you're doing. Just like we talked about the A7 IV. If I'm going to carry that camera, I have to accept the weight. It's like, oh, I wish I had all this, but cheaper, or I wish I had all this, but lighter. It don't exist sometimes. And that's kind of like the toss up. However, there's a lot of prime lenses that are out there that could be just as sharp, that could be, f1.4 or something, and they're smaller, but there's no autofocus because they're manual focus lenses. So you got to think about what's really important to you when you're considering lenses and stuff like this. It's like if we just go up here and we type in, see here, Sony E-mount lenses. It is a stupid, ridiculous, absolutely absurd amount of lenses, from manual focus, telephoto, all kinds of stuff. It's a tremendous amount of lenses that you can choose from. Are you going to get the best of the best with honors for $100? No, it doesn't exist. Even the Sony 16 f2.8 lens, it's not going to exist well because it autofocuses slow and it's a wider image and it's pancake, but it's not going to give you the blurry background in the way that you think. And you'll find yourself being more out of focus than kind of in focus at times. So it's a lot of lenses out here for these Sony cameras, but sometimes for some of the things that you all are wanting to do, it's a bit of a trade-off. If you want what you're looking at, that lens already exists, you just got to accept the weight or accept the price of what it costs for the value. Money's simply in exchange for value. So sometimes I don't have the answer that you want because it doesn't exist. Okay. Next question that we have, you're saying you're looking for it to stream. Yeah. So yeah, that's basically still the same answer for that one. So hopefully Sergey that helped answer that question for you. Blind guy, his wife, their life, asking in regards to shorts. I had someone say my channel is confusing now that I have so many short videos. They're organized on my homepage, but have you heard of it as bothersome? So this is a great question because here's the thing. Who is even the person that you're listening to evaluating all of this for? Is it a loud minority on your channel, or are you listening to the silent majority? That's the difference when you're talking about making adjustments based on comments. Sometimes in your comment sections, you have what's called the loud minority, which means there is a small subsector of people on your channel that's saying something, and you figure because they left a comment and others didn't, then this is what everybody else feels or thinks or whatever's. What does the analytics say? What are the analytics saying? How many people that are not subscribed or are subscribed of your channel are consuming your short form content? Based on how many of the percentage of those that are watching lets you know more or less who your content is kind of becoming attractive to. So you may say, well, I always get more people that are not subscribed versus those that are subscribed. Here's the follow-up question to that. Are you trying to show up in search for ranking when it comes to YouTube? So when somebody types in how to cook a steak, you come up as one of the first 3 to 5 options. If so, of course, you're going to have more unsubscribers than subscriber ratio. The other thing is the watch time. And you all have heard me teach about this. You all know I have that course called Mastering Micro Content. The thing you have to understand when it comes to micro content analytics is the loopability factor. This is not something you'll see on YouTube. That's just what I call it and train to, so that you understand how much are people consuming the content before they loop and watch it over again, because they enjoyed it enough that it was just like, I'll watch this one more time. It's just a automatic something that they want because it wasn't a negative response that made them want to keep scrolling. So if you're noticing that your average view duration is over 100%, you're hitting that loopability factor to where people are now looping your content. So I go back to my original question. Are you listening to a silent minority or a loud majority? Or a loud minority and a silent majority? Because you have to figure out who this person is and do they even qualify for you to be listening to make adjustments to your channel. I have seen comments all the time, this crazy stuff. I don't change a damn thing. So, it's like I know who my target audience is, and I'm cautious and I cater to the things that best help and suit them. And there are some things that as a creator and entrepreneur, you have to be willing to accept that they may not always like. Sometimes it may not be that they don't want to hear a music in your song. It's like, I don't want to hear music in your videos. Well, I do. And it's my damn video. So I'm a win on this one because it's a small thing. I'm okay with it annoying some people. I am cautious and aware, though, to know when I'm explaining something like focal length and how that matters, like with clear image zoom and blah, blah, blah. That's a more difficult, complex thing. May takes a little bit more brain power for you to understand or to grasp, or I'm describing something in like analytics, for example. There's never going to be any music on stuff like that because I get you're trying to focus and you're having something be distracting. So it's a trade-off there. So when you're thinking about making adjustments to your content or your stuff being confusing, is it confusing to the wrong audience? If so, then you need to evaluate, like, who am I trying to attract? And am I actually being attractive to those people? A good way to get that is an objective opinion when somebody looks at your channel. Can I look at your channel and not be confused knowing that this, like, oh, like you want somebody to have like a relief. You need to be a pain reliever overall. So if I go to your channel and I see wigs and I see like wig reviews or I see notebook reviews, so for journaling, and then I see some stuff on memory cards and I see some stuff on SSD cards, and then I see something on favorite thrifting or whatever for clothes. I don't know what the hell you're talking about other than just whatever you feel like talking about. So yes, at that point, it's confusing. But if I go and I see you saying something about thrifting or the best websites for discounts and how to sew such and such whatever and whatever about clothes stuff, and I see like a linear thing, then I see how all of these different things relate. Your content should always be attracting and repelling certain people. I am okay when that person comments that the content is designed to repel. Please leave at your earliest convenience. I don't want you here. My intent is to repel you. You're not supposed to be here anyway. This is where knowing who you're talking to matters tremendously, because you need to know who based on the type of comment, like the who. If it was somebody that was tracking along with you and they're like, yeah, I'm the right target audience, but I'm lost now because I don't know what the hell you're doing. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes as a creator, that's intentional, because you'll have people that change what their channel is about. And you have those existing viewers that are like, am I still supposed to be here? I don't think I'm supposed to be here no more. I think this is not for me. And you leave. The same way, it's no different than when a piece of real estate is sold and it's a Target. And then the next thing, it's like the Babies R Us or something. Then you like, I don't need to come to this location no more. This ain't for me. Same thing with the channel. So if you had your people and this is somebody that's of your target audience, maybe consider, like, if you're now repelling your target audience, you getting off. And maybe everything doesn't need to be on your channel at that point. Maybe that's supposed to go to your secondary platform, to where they also consume content and expect to see certain stuff, but maybe they aren't. So where's the secondary platform for where your people also congregate? Is it TikTok? Is it LinkedIn? Is it Twitter? Is it Instagram? Where else do they go for short form vertical videos? It could be Twitter stories, or it could be LinkedIn stories, or whatever. So you need to probably reevaluate if you got that one and just look over some stuff. Like I said, I've given you plenty at this point to kind of like dive into that. But that's what I would say when it comes to things like that. Okay. Let us catch on up. Would I recommend the ZV-E10 over the A7400? Depends on the person. I have a video that's already about that on the channel where I compare the different two, but this is specifically for video. I don't even talk about anything for photography. So if that's your jam or anything like that, we don't talk about that here. I only do video. So if you're looking into a hybrid use for video, then maybe for some of the functionalities and the way the camera is set up, A6400 may be your jam. If you're just getting started and you're getting ready to do video, the eye autofocus matters to you, and screen orientation, so it flipping out like this and all of that kind of matters to you, then it's a ZV-E10 kind of conversation. What is this even? Notes. Post-it notes. So at that point, you want to take a look into that. There is a difference in the body, again, based on the original use case. A6400 for hybrid use, I say more photos than video, but the video specs on there is dope. You're looking at this on the A6400 right now, and I have the ZV-E10, so I would venture to say I know what the hell I'm talking about this one. So it depends. Different button layout, which will impact how you use it. But if the focus is for video, you're just getting started, there's not anything in the A6400 for video that I think is worth recommending over the ZV-E10 at this point, other than the auto white balance lock, which is something I personally miss, but you can just set the white balance at that point. So that's what I think for that one. Question coming in about vMix. It's fine. If that's what you're wanting to use for a live streaming platform, it's fine. I mean, it's one of the few lasting live streaming platforms. You would think after last year we would have like better, Windows based options or like hybrid options, if you will. And we still really don't. Wirecast is like passed away. Rightly so, I guess. But vMix is kind of like that only pro level option if you're trying to get away from a browser based solution, something like BeLive.tv or StreamYard. Because here's the thing. Once you don't have internet, StreamYard, it doesn't exist for you anymore. BeLive TV doesn't exist for you anymore. So there is no, let me record my keynote even though the internet is down overnight, because stuff that has happened to me before, and I still can't do everything. So I got a crap load of content. So when they send that text and say, hey, power's restored or internet's restored, I can say, cool, upload all my stuff to Dropbox and we're off to the races. That doesn't exist when you're using something like a StreamYard or BeLive.tv. So vMix in that sense will be the only other option that is something that you can have on your computer for live streaming, also probably use it for recording and stuff like that. So I don't have a problem with it, but I'm a Mac user. I use Ecamm, so that's the only thing. So I think it's a fine option. It's just not, it is what it is. Okie dokie. We have, another benefit for those of you that are new to Ecamm. Let's go right here, and you can change comments on the fly. Let's click save, and with the beautiful power of Ecamm, have a happy white chalk. Why, thank you, JFK Productions. I so appreciate kombucha knowing that it is that. So listen, I'm telling you. Alrighty. So let's see here. Question saying, do you think the ZV-E10 being limited to 720p over USB is a hardware or software limitation? It's really not an either. It's just the already, even if you look at, it's really just the feed that's happening already in the camera when you look at, what is it called? Proxy. Proxies in the camera are also at 720p. So it's kind of like that existing thing. There's a more technological reason like of the whatever, or that kind of a sense. So they're giving you access to what's already kind of existing in the camera, not building on anything necessarily new in that way. So A7 IV, for example, has the ability to natively get access to that 4K imagery or whatever to kick that out. Can you scale that up in something like an Ecamm or whatever? Yes, but that's where it also is a beautiful benefit to have USB-C through the ZV-E10 using Ecamm. You can do that already through Ecamm. You don't need to activate the USB-C live streaming that way. So There you go. So do I think it's a limitations or something? No, I don't think it's something like, oh, well, let's cut it down to 720p, because that honestly doesn't make sense. Technologically, something that's already accessible in the camera, they're just giving you access to that in a way to live stream. That's even still available on the A7 IV that just dropped, we talked about earlier, where that 720p is in the USB micro option. So if you're getting it straight through the ZV-E10 and you don't have something like Ecamm, yeah, you're gonna get 720p. Do I think it's a limitation? No, I don't think it is. I just think like it's the best that is already there in the camera existing. You're just getting access to whatever that other profile thing is or whatever. I can't explain it better than that right now. So, so yeah. Alrighty. Mr. Camera Junkie saying I both have the Sigma 16 and 30 millimeter lenses. Amazing images, 100%. They're saying that Sigma 16, she is thick. She is a weighty girl. She is a weighty girl. Saying I love the Sigma 16 and the 30. She's a girl. Alex, good to see you. Glad that you're here. It's the truth. It is the truth. She is. Alrighty. What's going on? Easily Excellence. Good to see you. Glad that you are here. Alrighty. Another question coming in. Would you consider the new Sigma 18 to 50 f2.8 as a general purpose lens? Maybe, maybe not. It depends. I'm real picky when it comes to my lenses, simply because it's not like cameras in that sense. Like you could, it's always like options. Granted, for me personally, I'm not for getting lenses that kind of sit on top of each other in that way. And if I have a intent to use something, then I'm thinking like, what would I use it for? And then would that cancel something else out? If this is your only lens, or you're looking for that one and done kind of a setup, maybe. I mean, let's take a look. So we say Sigma 18 to 50 millimeter f2.8 lens. So I'm not seeing, I know they released some stuff or announced some new things. I'm not seeing anything on Amazon right now. You mean the 18 to, it's not sounding right to me. Let's go to Sigma's website. I know they released some ones or whatever, but it's like 18 to 50. It's like for what though? And that for me personally, and it depends on what are you talking about doing, because sometimes that's extra for no reason. If 11 to 20 from the Tamron would better suit, let's only use that. If you need that little extra bit of a jump, you still have clear image zoom available to you. So I'm kind of like, that's too big of a wide of a range. Like it's kind of like a for what kind of a thing for me in that sense. At an f2.8, yeah, it's cool, but it's like, So this is the one you're talking about here, this 18 to 50 f2.8 lens. Sigma makes heavy lenses. Like they don't, they have no dietary restrictions for their lenses. Again, Sigma always does a dope job when it comes to their stuff. 18 to 50, again, is kind of like a for what lens. You have to know what you're getting for. I think it would be fine. Don't get me wrong. I think it'd be fine. I have the 16 to 70 by Zeiss. That's an f4 lens. But again, it's f4 because I know I'd never probably shoot that indoors, more than likely. And it's more or less kind of like again, if I need the range, I'll grab it and that's it. But I mean, this one is fine. I don't have any qualms about it. For me, honestly though, I probably wouldn't. I'd probably go for the Tamron lenses just because they have extremely close focusing ranges, or I may go the Sony route and get one of theirs because they have the optical steady shot in the lens as well. But yeah, it's like when you're looking at zoom ranges and stuff like that, I don't know. I've kind of fallen in love personally with the Tamron lenses simply because they focus really, really closely. It's like, it's crazy how close they can get out. The 17 to 28 and the 28 to 75 are really, really dope. This one I think would be a fine lens if you want it general purpose, like you said. That's fine, but I'm more so getting like closer to the specifics. If you're different in that way, this would be a fine lens, I think. But optical steady shot, do you need it? Do you want it? F2.8, F4, does it matter? F2.8 I think is better in that sense, but I don't know. It's a weird focal length. I'd be more so getting closer or wider to what I'm actually doing. And here's the thing. last point on this. Maybe don't buy more than what you need, because you start carrying around extra weight for no reason, or you literally have a focal portions of your focal length that you're never using. This is where the kit lens again becomes very, very helpful. See what actual focal range you're actually using and go get that specific thing. You'll get a much sharper image, sometimes more shallow depth of field that gives you more options when you're getting into lower light situations. So just something to consider when it comes to that. But great question there, Chris, excuse me. What is wrong with my English today? Saying thanks so much for directing me to the analytics. I'll cater to that first when it comes to shorts. Saying this is why you're the GOAT. Why, thank you so much. Saying you may repel the dark chocolate disciples, but we'll keep coming back. Y'all need help, okay? And thank you to Doc Rock, my brother from another mother. When we were in New York, he drops and throws over this candy bar, white chocolate, pure white chocolate with like, I don't know, some kind of crunch in it, some orange hints. It was delectable. I watched no TV. I just sat on the side of the bed and ate that candy bar. It was delectable. But guess what? It was white chocolate, right? It was white chocolate. Y'all just need to start living right. Miss Finance saying great advice. My pleasure. Say my shorts videos are 15 seconds, usually mainly food, since I do 2-minute food videos. And the complaint was that they just like to see the live streams like before. What is the content about overall? What's the general purpose and point of the channel? Who are you helping with what specifically? If I start posting food videos and y'all like, we didn't sign up for this, that's because you didn't sign up for this. There's a specific reason why people say yes to you and subscribe to your channel. And it has to be an easy yes. They shouldn't have to like think, is it going to be worth their time, or is it just going to annoy them? And then they have to go back and unsubscribe. And it's just like, at that point, they'll just pass. Thanks for the one video that makes sense, and I'll pass on everything else. So overall, does the channel make sense with what you're talking about? And if that person just don't like shorts, it could just be them. Again, we're taking all this energy for one loud minority. They may not even be worth like belaboring over at this point, right? And then too, what are other people that are leaving comments saying about the content as well? So consider that in the right ratio when it comes to that. It's like, who is the content for? And is it making sense? People that dig your stuff, that's into what you're teaching and talking about, they don't really care at some point. After a while, they just like, I'm here for it. Because you on point, you helping, you blah, 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 you know, all this, whatever. You got to be careful about listening to loud minorities in your comments. And okay. So I think it's the new release for the crop sensor lens. Yeah, we see that for the 18 to 50. It just is the 18 to 50 focal range. Like that's something like if I need to, like I literally need to run and gun. I don't know what I'm about to do. I just need to be ready. More or less, go for the gold. Having one of these lenses, let me note that also, is also good to just have around. That's why I have my Zeiss 16 to 70 f4, because like if I just need to go out for a day, I don't know what I'm gonna shoot, I'm fine with it. Because I took the 10 to 18 with me for a whole week in New York. I had no problems about being indoors, outdoors, or whatever. If you're using a Sony camera, you're not being crippled in that way when it comes to the sensor, whether it's APS-C or full frame, especially. Now, if you start getting pixel peeping, and I zoomed in 200% and I saw, we don't even care what you saw. Like, because the average person don't do that. Average person don't zoom in 100%. Like, they don't care. So if it makes sense for what you need it to do, go for the gold. Don't even worry about the extra. Get it. If you know you need it or want it, get it. See, let me keep showing y'all. This is now Ecamm. With Ecamm, you can click on a comment and change this to white. I'm just gonna help our brother Alex out. Chocolate for life. Oops. L-I-F-E. There you go. There you go, Alex. I got you covered. Don't worry, brother. I know you mistyped. Don't even worry about it. I'm glad that you're here. Could you make a tutorial on how to make a live stream with the ZV-E10 in 1440p? Is it possible Windows 7 and a 4K capture card? So let me be very clear. I don't make content when it comes to Windows-based machines. So that's going to be an automatic no on that part. As far as the 1440p, if you're going to do your live streams, you can either do 1080p live streams and scale that up to 4K in whatever software that you're using. So for example, I use Ecamm, or you can go 4K and downsample that into the 1440p, like that 2K framing, if that's what you're wanting to do. I only use Ecamm for my live streams, so whatever you choose to do is whatever you choose to do. So as you can see right here, this is my setup today. So because I didn't change it from whatever I was doing, it was in 1080p. So oh, I know what I was doing. I was doing some kind of vertical video testing stuff. Neither here nor there. So this otherwise would be in 4K. I could change this to 1440p or 1080p or whatever I want it to be because of my stream settings capabilities in Ecamm. So it's not the camera specific at that point. That's an Ecamm thing. So the fact that you're on a Windows-based machine cancels this whole conversation out as far as the Ecamm portion. So whatever you use to live stream with on Windows, whether that's StreamYard, BeLive, vMix, if they have 2K or 4K settings available, you need to seek that out for that. We don't even cover that stuff on the channel. I only deal with Ecamm and Mac-based stuff. So unfortunately, that answer is going to be no. So, you know, Alex, y'all just need to start living right. That's the only thing. Y'all need to start living right. All right. I'm sorry. Can't help you as far as the dark chocolate. Y'all just need to start living right. Eat a little white chocolate and you will feel better. Okay. So hopefully this answers you all question. I'm scrolling back through real quick. I don't think I have any more questions for y'all. Let's see here. I think that's it. I think. Hold on. So room is little about thinking about the Sigma 30 for your, yeah, if the room is little at that point, the Sigma 16 would be fine at that point because you can have your table or what you're sitting at and it can be right in front of you. And it also helps with lighting because you may not have a ton of space to do a bunch of dynamic lighting. So if you're doing your live stream and the Sigma 16 will work best for you, I think in this scenario it would, simply before you being able to get a wider length. I think that can go up to like a 32 millimeter or somewhere thereabout if you use the clear image zoom or something like that. So you got range. You got range at that point. I think you'll be fine and well served with that. Like I say, if you need to punch in, then you can use that clear image zoom to kind of bring that in a bit. But I think for you personally, the Sigma 16 would probably be a good starting point for you if that room is tiny. So something to consider when it comes to that. Saying, okay, thank you very much. Great answer. Thank you. I'm using OBS. Okay. At that point, even if you're doing 1080p, you can change that setting in OBS to maybe 2K or 4K and stretch that image a little bit. Or if you're live streaming already in 4K with the HDMI out on the camera, then at that point, like, so this example is in 4K, but the stream today is in 1080p because it didn't change the stream settings. So now we're squeezing 4K image into 1080p. You can do vice versa. It'll be fine. So whatever you're already using, I would say go through your OBS settings and just change it there, and then you'll be fine. Alrighty. All right, guys, that's where I'm gonna leave it for this week's live stream. A video coming out on the channel today about helping you all to do your interviews better. Something I see more people struggling with, but it'll be a little bit fun because we're talking about that with pod decks, which is something that is really interesting. I don't think I've heard anybody in our industry for real talk about, because sometimes these interviews suck. And if somebody has done like over 100 or so interviews, I would definitely say we could all do a little bit better here. So that video will be coming out on the channel later today. Be sure to check that out. And with that, guys, love and passion. I'll see you in the next video.